Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this our very first talk, Bias in African Fashion. We're so happy to have you here with us today. My name is Udochi, and I'm one of the co-founders of Bias in African Fashion. Papa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Papa Oyemi. I'm a fashion designer based in Lagos, Nigeria, and also a co-founder of Bias in African Fashion. BAF, which is an acronym for Bias in African Fashion, is confronting prejudice and bias within the African fashion landscape. So thank you for joining.
Yes, yes. And we're so excited for the speaker that we have here with us today, Ngozi Okaro. In a moment, we're going to have her just jump in and tell us a bit more about the platform she works on, Custom Collaborative, and how she started and why she started it. But first, let me just kind of introduce this segment a bit. This segment is called Inside Fashion with Bias in African Fashion. And the purpose is really for us to discuss and talk about what is happening currently in fashion. The death of George Floyd has set off a moment really globally where there's a real reckoning in terms of racial equity and how we can ensure that the systems that we have globally are inclusive for everyone. And in Africa, particularly in the fashion segment, we thought that it was important that we ensure that we also are not left out of this conversation, particularly as to how we deal with inclusivity in our fashion segment. So for these series of talks, we're going to be talking with different fashion players across the globe. Well, first, we wanted to start with those who are actually driving change in the fashion segment across the globe. So that's why we have Ngozi here today. As I mentioned, she is the founder and executive director of Custom Collaborative, which is an organization based out of New York that works with low-income and immigrant women, teaching them skills to help them enter the fashion industry. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ngozi just to tell us a bit more about Custom Collaborative, kind of what you guys are doing and what led you to start the platform. So you can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today and to join you all in discussion and talk about my work, your platform. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah.
For sure. So Custom Collaborative is a nonprofit social enterprise. As you said, we support women from low income and immigrant communities develop careers in sustainable fashion. I came to this because like many of the people who may be listening, I have always had clothes made, right? So, you know, my dad lives in Lagos, and whenever I go there, I'll go around the corner to the tailor, have something made, or even if I'm here in New York, there are ladies who will make clothing. So one of the women who was a dressmaker for me is from Guinea. She would make me these beautiful dresses, jumpsuit, pantsuit, everything. And people would always ask where I got it, how could they get it? It looks so good, it's a perfect fit, you know? And then I would say, oh, well, just go to Mariama and you do this, you do that, you take her some pictures, you take her some fabric, you play with her children afterwards, you call her in a few weeks to remind her. And for people who are not accustomed to that, that seemed like a lot to do. And yeah, you know, so I just started thinking, well, if we could connect Mariama with people who can pay more money, right, than what we're paying for these clothes, and also help her develop her business skills and some of her construction skills, she could have a different market, make more money, you know, and that would support her and her community in a way that is not possible right now. And so that is basically what the premise behind Custom Collaborative was, you know, to help people like Mariama who have skills and also women who can learn skills to develop a lucrative career in fashion, but specifically focusing on sustainable fashion, which by my definition includes human rights and living wages in addition to protecting the environment.
I love it. I love it. Papa, what do you think?
Yeah,
I think
really interesting. Like, I'm actually very excited hearing all this, knowing that people are actually doing different things in different ways that even personally I wouldn't think that I have actually thought about those ways before myself, and that's why I can't think about everything. So learning about what people are doing in different ways that are actually moving the narrative forward is actually very, very interesting
Yeah.
to know. So I
I
would like
love,
to ask though,
I was gonna say, I
yeah,
love as well the Niger connection there, how some of your experiences, getting clothes made led you to want to start this as well. So I
Yeah.
love that personal connection to Nigeria as well. So yeah. Sorry, Papa, go ahead.
yeah. So I would like to ask that how has been the reception of the initiative?
Really great. When people find out about what we're doing, they want to participate, whether
Mm,
it's as a student or there's somebody in the fashion industry already, they want to volunteer, but companies want to work with us so that the women who graduate from our program can come and work with them. So the reception is really good. We have graduated 8 programs, 8 classes of women from the training program. And then we
mm,
also have a program, a business incubator, where people can learn additional skills. We work with designers to help them with their sample and small production. And then
mm,
also developed an employee-owned cooperative. So the women are working together, sewing and running the whole business themselves. So it's 3 programs, but all of it lead to women being self-sufficient and using skills that are meaningful to them
mm.
and their families. Yeah.
So why do you think that it seems like the reception has been pretty positive and you guys have enjoyed success?
Mhm.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the reception has been so positive? And what do you think, what role do you think you're really playing right now in the fashion system?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I think that people are receptive
Hmm.
because it just seems like such an obvious way to
Mm,
solve a couple of problems. One, that the fashion industry in New York, at least, is
mm,
so many people who are skilled at the sewing and production and design are retiring. So then the question becomes how to fill these
mm,
spaces, right? And so we're training people. I think another thing is that so many people have in their backgrounds, whether it's their mother, their grandmother, their aunt, something, people who are sewing or dyeing fabric or selling fabric and fashion for a living, that it seems intuitive. And I think it's
mm.
also very acceptable across many
Interesting.
cultures. Yeah.
Mhm,
And I think the other thing that people like is that we're really focused on um, helping people from all backgrounds. So there are women who work with us who come from more than 20 different countries, right? And so for them to say like, oh, okay, you're from India, you are from Nigeria, you're from Benin, you're from Japan, all of us can come together and work together
yeah.
and get along, and we don't have to worry about the ideas or the rumors of tribalism. We're all working
Mhm.
together for a better fashion future. I think that's compelling for people.
I love that. I love that,
Yeah, me
definitely.
too.
Yeah. I like that you guys are filling one skills gap. I didn't realize that that was actually happening, that people who are skilled in sewing and tailoring were retiring in New York. So it's great that you guys are filling that gap. So there's a definite need for it. And also the ability for people to kind of relate because they have people who have done similar jobs or worked in the industry in their families. I think that's awesome. It's
Thank
great. Yeah. So something else that you also mentioned when you answered the previous question was that for you, sustainable fashion also includes providing a living wage. Talk a little bit about that. How do you guys encourage the people that you work with, the ladies that you work with, to ensure that they're earning a livable standard? And how do you ensure that when they go enter the industry, that the companies that they work for also paying them fairly?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In terms of the women, from the beginning in the Training Institute, we pay them a stipend and provide a Metro card. So then that way, we're already saying to them, your time is valuable. Even though you're
Yeah.
earning,
Mm.
your time is valuable. People might have told you in the past that you're not valuable, that your time is not valuable, or just go do this.
Can you explain, sorry, Ngozi, can you explain MetroCard? Because not everybody is from.
Yes, sorry. So here in New York, the way we get around on subway or buses is to use this credit card size, and people will swipe it through the machine. And so you can have a card that works for 1 week or for 1 month. An individual ride is $2.75, right? And so we say, okay, so here, we want to provide you every week with a Metro card so you can get around every week, whether it's to and from class, you're going on class field trips, and of course they have it where they can use it on the weekend for their personal use, because many people don't have access to that, right? Like $5.50 a day is pretty expensive. So we provide that in addition to the stipend, and of course in the training program, all of the supplies that the ladies will need as well. So that's one way that we communicate to them that they are valuable, that we value them. In addition to the sewing and design, another part of our program is entrepreneurship. So throughout the training program, they learn how bookkeeping, costing, you know, if you're going to sell a garment, how much should it be?
The business side as well. I love that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to make sure that people are valuable and that they recognize that. And then when people finish the training institute and they're working in the business incubator, when we connect them with jobs, we talk to each potential employer and say, like, okay, you have to pay this person at least $15 per hour. The fashion industry has a lot of unpaid internships, but we think that that's unfair. And so we don't work with companies that want to have our interns, you know, or workers come on for no pay. That makes no sense, right? Because both sides are getting some value. So why are you not paying the person, compensating them for the value that they bring? You know, so those are the direct ways. And then also we advocate through the industry, whether it's with the companies that we work with or other groups in support of living wages for garment workers. So in California this summer, this September and August, there were campaigns trying to get the legislature of California to raise the minimum wage for garment workers. And so we signed on to that. There are other campaigns like Pay Up campaign. Many people might know that when the pandemic hit, some of the companies were not paying the overseas companies. And so that the laborers weren't getting paid. And so we've pushed, we're part of groups pushing to get those debts paid as well. So it's really, you know, ground level as well as higher level as well.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Great. Yeah.
It's like I'm learning a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean,
I think is great. I really think that point about earning a living wage, particularly in Africa, is something that we also have to tackle, because there's so many issues that kind of affect that here. I should say in Africa. I think it may be a bit easier in the US just because there are already those standards in terms of minimum wage and all of that are sort of kind of fair. I think it's a huge conversation that has to happen across in Africa. What do you think, Papa?
True. Yeah, true. I mean, I think that the stories are not the same now. Like, for example, I'm big because you are in New York, so I wouldn't particularly say that all the things that you see you're doing currently, I'm doing everything like that in my own business as well, because it's not the same society, it's not the same economy. So, but that's why I said that I'm learning a whole lot, so I can work towards getting to that level.
Yeah, right. And that's what it is. It's incremental steps, because before you know, you don't know, right? If you're thinking, okay, I'll just pay this person, you know, 1,600 Naira for each dress that they make. It may sound okay because that's what other people are doing. But then once you hear, oh, actually, there are standards, and do I want to have standards myself if I want to say like I'm the best employer, right? I do the best work. That includes making sure that the people who are working for you can buy their own rice, right? So, but I think if we haven't been presented with these ideas, right, we don't know. But once we do know, we have an opportunity to do better, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know, like this, the program is currently based in New York. Are there any plans to expand beyond New York and take the initiative to other areas or regions, maybe like Lagos, for example?
The Lagosians will figure out what to do in Lagos, right? So we actually do want to expand. We want to, in the next 5 years, be in at least 2 other US cities. So right now we're coming up with a plan to, how do we get the money to do that? Because this is expensive programming, so we need to have the funding to do that. We already have some of the relationships with organizations in these other cities, but we do want to expand even in New York as well, because so many people are saying, oh, we want more access to your program, because we only teach 3 classes per year in the training program, and we have limited space to operate the incubator out of. So we need more money so we can have more space, more specialization, and more opportunities for the women, for sure.
Okay, great. You mentioned funding. Funding is always a huge need for businesses. If you don't mind me asking, where is most of your funding coming from? Is it from are there like foundations that specialize in fashion, or where exactly is most of your funding coming from?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because unfortunately there are not foundations that specialize in fashion that I know of. But hopefully, if your viewers know of some, they'll send me a message.
Yes.
But, there are a lot of foundations that focus on workforce development and entrepreneurship, and so we work in both of those areas. We train women to have their own businesses and to be hired. So that's something that helps us. And then there are also some foundations like New York Women's Foundation, which focuses on women's issues. So that's one of our funders. We have a lot of our funding comes from individual donations. And just within the past year, we've gotten some government funding, which is a small amount relatively. And given that, the New York state government, New York City government, even federal government probably is cutting their funding because of the COVID recession, we know we will need to expand and amplify our funding sources. And of course, we get some funding also from fashion industry companies as well.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. And then in terms of, we talked about some of the successes that you've had already, but can you potentially maybe put it in numbers for us in terms of how many people you have graduated, how many people have their own businesses, how many people are working for fashion brands? And then also maybe talk about what you think it is that you've done that has allowed you to achieve the success that you've had.
Yeah, sure. So those are great questions. I just want to share with you, since we're talking about numbers, something that I just learned this morning from Ifunanya, who was one of our graduates from our first program. So she's going to be doing a talk at a university with me on Monday. And so today, going over the presentation. So she told me that she is selling a lady some suits that she has made, by hand custom, for $855 US per suit.
That's a nice figure. Yeah.
$855, and she's selling this lady, I think, 4 of them, right?
Wow.
And when I met Ifunanya, she was selling people up and down for 80, right? But she didn't know her value, and so people at her church would be coming to her, oh, you're not doing anything with your time, just make this, right? Because she was letting other people determine her value. She told me that this customer who came to her, she told the lady, okay, I'm going to charge you $300. And so we've been working for 4 years together saying, okay, increase your prices. And finally she said to this lady, okay, $300. The woman told her, oh, you should probably raise your prices because you have made me a custom suit and $300 doesn't sound like enough. And so the woman said to her, you should charge what you think you should make based on the time that it takes. And so she said, okay. She thought about it. She decided she should get $60 per hour, which came up to $855 for this suit. She told the lady this, and the lady said, okay, right? So sometimes we have to find different customers than the people we know, right? Who are at our church, who are neighbors in our community. They might want your clothes, but your clothes are so fine that you need to price them properly and get the money that you're owed, right? And so I'm so proud of her for taking that leap and trusting in herself and in her skills, and her talent would shine through. And now she's making so much more money than if she was selling dress $80, jumper $40, you know?
Yeah.
So that, some days I hear like these small stories, but they're big accomplishments because I think it's a testament to what can happen if you continue to perfect your skills and trust your skills and don't go with what somebody tells you. So that said, yeah, so we have just graduated. Our 8th class of students, Ifunanya was in the 1st class. We had that graduation this summer. It was virtual. We have graduated around 60 women so far. I should have gone. I'm not entirely sure the exact, around 60 something women. More than 75%, about 80% are working in fashion now. Some are working for companies. Some are, you know, interning at companies. Some have their own businesses, and 7 of them are co-owners of this fashion cooperative that I was just talking to you about. So they started this cooperative as a production cooperative where they just, you know, if you're coming to them saying, I want 10 scarves, they'll sew the scarves and then charge you. But there are other cooperatives that we think that we can develop. There are so many in New York, there's a huge garment district. And so there's so many businesses where the people are saying, oh, they might retire, that we know that, you know, maybe they will sell this business to their employees. And so we can help them with that transition. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to have jobs. You know, some people have businesses where they're selling handbags and other accessories while being involved with Custom Collaborative, because again, we'll pay the woman to do certain jobs for us through the incubator, because Custom Collaborative has its own line. So we just really strive to create opportunity, and we look for the opportunities, the right companies, the right individuals to be in our network, to be in community with us and advocate for and with women.
Great. Great, I love it.
Like, particularly, I love the story from the 80 to 800.
Yes, now. Right. Yeah.
That story,
You should think about it. And so she said the lady came to her, she wanted pockets on the jacket, and she hadn't put them before. She just put a patch pocket. And said, okay, I'll make a pocket. And so she made a, you know, an enclosed pocket, right? So that takes time, that takes money, that's special expertise. So people should pay for that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Papa, you still there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I would like to know, like, what are the things that you think has been the most important things that you have done that have allowed you to achieve these successes that you've just shared with us?
One of the important things was doing a lot of planning from the beginning and making sure that we had experts along with us. So my background is not in fashion design, so I intentionally found people who would work with us to help design the curriculum who did have a background in fashion design. So one lady is a professor at North Carolina State University, and she helped us with our initial curriculum. Even with our early hiring decisions, the person who we hired to be initially our lead instructor, he had created a training program and also led training for a big fabric company here in the US. So making sure to have people around us who were volunteers who could lend their expertise, whether it's in recruitment or even social services, just making sure that we had the right folks around the table and we could get people excited about the idea. Because the idea first hit me in 2014, November, but we didn't
Yeah.
start the first class until October 2016. So there was a lot of thinking and planning and making sure that we had the best idea. And also, of course, including the women themselves. So whenever we want to change or adjust something with the program, we'll ask them. Or if they say, oh, I think we should do this, we take that seriously, right? Because they're the learners, they're the stakeholders, they're the ones who are getting these jobs. We need to hear from them. And at the
Yeah.
same time, you know, we hear from industry, from the companies, what they're looking for in employees, what types of skills and experiences they need, so we can make sure that we're preparing people for the jobs that are available today and for the jobs that will be around tomorrow. That's
Right.
really important to us. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So one question I had is, we've talked a lot about successes, but what has been the most difficult, the hardest part of the process?
Wow, what is the hardest part of the process? I feel like there are constant challenges, and you don't know what the challenge will be. I mean, we're creating something that didn't exist before, so it's hard to say what the next challenge will be that comes at the door. You know, through the coronavirus shutdown in New York, we started making masks to sell because the ladies needed income, and we knew, okay, well, maybe someone will buy these masks. So we made thousands of masks remotely, which was new to us. It was difficult, but we figured it out with some help from some friends. And so we got past that challenge. I would say that overall, the biggest challenge is getting proper funding to do this work. It's expensive, cost-intensive work. And so we need to make sure that we're doing our best to get in front of the people who can support this work and who want to invest in women, who want to invest in Black and Brown women, who want to invest in community and in fashion design. So that's the most challenging part, and I think that takes up you know, the most amount of time.
Yes.
So it looks like NEPA has now not failed you anymore. That's what's going on.
Oh, but did you hear that?
Yeah. The generator came on.
Thank God for
Thank God for that. I know.
We've all been there, so.
I know.
Now, I was
We all
counting.
know that.
Oh wow. Yeah, thank God.
Okay, so I'll take the next question. So in terms of fashion in Africa, I don't know how much you know of what's happening on ground in the industry, but how do you think it needs to change? And particularly, what do you think we need to do? How can we change to make it a bit more inclusive?
I mean, that's a great question. I think that there are different ways of making it inclusive. So in fact, my cousin is a fashion designer in Lagos, and he does—
That's her brand, by the way, or his brand. So
yeah, yes. So let me just look. So it's his name is Arazu Okaro, and so his brand is gender neutral, right? So he says, okay, I'm making these clothes. Whoever wants to wear them can wear them. I think that is so exciting. And really, before I knew what he was doing with X-ray design, I had no idea that that concept was even in Nigeria. So I'm so proud of him for being engaged in that type of thing.
yeah.
It's very great. I mean, I think that sustainability is not something that I've heard about much in Nigeria. I know that there's fashion revolution in Nigeria. I want to see that getting bigger, but just making sure that the dye is not polluting the rivers, right? That, of course, sustainability, again, being part of that being fair wages. So making sure that people are paid fair wages for their work. I think that those are important things no matter where you are in the world. So I am excited about that. I also think that size inclusivity is something that's really important. I feel like, you know, in fact, sizing is more inclusive, at least from what I've seen in Nigeria, than it is here in the States, right? But it's really important to make sure that people who want to wear clothes will have a clothing that fits their bodies. But, you know, I want to turn that question back to you also, Papa. Tell me, what are you thinking is important in terms of inclusion in fashion in Nigeria and in Africa?
I think it's part of the conversations that we're having. Exactly the same. One of the reasons why myself and Udochi came together to create this foundation or platform for things like this. So I think we just need to check more and on who exactly can do the job, regardless, and also to open the door down for people, younger creatives to come up, and also to ensure that we are not just limiting it to a particular tribe to be in power all the time. We should open it up, and a few others, like just little issues here and there, and our definitions of terms, like certain things that we just like. Everybody has a couture brand, everybody is this, everybody is that. So things like that, we just need to be able to change them little by little and let people understand that, you know what, this is actually wrong, and this could be a better way to go forward. So many things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I definitely agree. I think it's really just taking the time to trying to find those areas where there might be unconscious closed doors. I think with something like race, it's very easy to identify this person is Black, this person is white. So the issues of prejudice might be a bit more clear. But I think certain of the things that we face, some of the prejudices and bias that we face in Africa are not as clear cut. So I think it's about just asking those questions and talking to the people in the industry to understand where the roadblocks are and where the issues are. You mentioned your cousin who was doing gender neutral clothing. That surprisingly, or not surprisingly, is an area that has been growing. And Papa can probably speak a little bit more about this as well, because he also is involved in that area a bit, or a lot, I should say. So that's an area I think that we also need to talk about. Something else I believe also is just even geographically. So much of what we do is focused in Lagos, but the country is much bigger than Lagos. So there's so many facets to it, you know, so many ways that we can look to make sure that there isn't bias and that doors not being closed to certain communities to ensure everybody has access and can grow their brands and businesses in the fashion sector. So.
Yeah. Like I would like to, like, for example, when you mentioned your cousin, I was excited because I wanted to know his name and see his brand, and because I don't know if I've met him or heard of his brand before. Those are the kind of things that I don't think should be happening. Like I want to be
pioneer in that space, so you should.
As a beautiful designer in Jos or in Enugu or somewhere far away that I've never been, and can act that people actually know down here in Lagos. It's not just that the little community that is serving in Enugu is the only people that know about him. So just including people more and more like that. All these other brands that we don't know about and they're doing good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think it's so important to know. And like I said, it's X-Ray Designs. But you know, yeah, here in New York especially, there's like, I would say like a community, right, of people who are doing one, sustainable fashion, inclusive fashion, also gender neutral. a good friend of Custom Collaborative is a woman, Renat Brodach, who's doing Gender Free. She was just on the show Making the Cut on Amazon. And so I was so excited to find out that, you know, that my cousin was doing this Gender Free, and so connected them. But I think it's so important to have, like, you know, whether it's event or something. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah, I think it's so important to have events or whatever where communities of people who are doing the same type of thing can connect each other. So it's not so isolated, right? And you know, I hear what you're saying about people being separated by, oh, who can be in this business? I mean, and again, you know, I don't think that there is a place that is more separated by caste and so many other things in the US, but I think that it is possible to do the work differently. So at Custom Collaborative, the people who work on staff with us, we have people who follow 3 different faith traditions that I know of. You know, on staff, we are, you know, different races. People come from different countries, different first languages. So it's possible. It's just that people's minds have to shift about who they will work with and what value everybody brings, because everybody has something to bring to the table, right?
Exactly. And then I guess one last final question as we close up. Papa, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, well, advice. It sounds very cliche. Okay, what advice would you like to give to those of us working within the African fashion sector?
Tell me the question.
To help, what advice would you like to give to those of us who work within the African fashion sector to help change or drive this change that we are currently talking about?
This was the hardest question. Thank you, Papa.
So, not cliche, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the one thing that I think is really important is to create a community, right? So if it's a community of people who are saying like, oh, actually we are tired of the bias in the fashion industry, just like you have done, to say that. And there are other people who will follow that flag who've been thinking the same thing. And so to bring those people together, I think, you know, so much can be accomplished after a problem is named, right? So this is the issue, let us figure out how we work on it together. And some people will not be interested in working on it, and that's fine, but I think you create a community of people who are engaged, who can have energy around this, and that's a start. And I mean, also really unpacking the bias and deciding that you want to work together regardless. We at Custom Collaborative just started a project with a group called, a business called 1432, started by, you know, this amazing designer who teaches at Parsons, which is one of the top fashion design schools in New York. And he's originally from Pakistan. And he himself said, oh, so we started thinking in our company, well, people are talking about Black Lives Matter. Have we really stood up and shown up for the Black community? And they realized that there was more that they could do. And so they started a fellowship, and they're calling it Black Design Matters. And so now they have awarded 2 Custom Collaborative program participants with the opportunity for this place to produce their clothing in Pakistan. It's all ethically, sustainably made.
I heard about that,
Yeah, right. And so if people can do this across country, certainly people who are in the same country, in the same city, can work together in the same region. So I think we just have to challenge ourselves to do better. And this was, you know, with 1432, this was the founder, Amara, this was his idea, right? So anybody can have an idea and approach people, and eventually you find the right like-minded people, and you start your initiative, and you're the star of this thing, and you're just really lifting up your own principles. So I'm excited for that. And I think that there are so many other opportunities for us to create things, as long as we can think creatively and decide we don't want to be hemmed in by what has been, but we have new ideas and we want to, you know, make our ideas go and be the force for change.
I love it. Great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from anyone? Papa, Ngozi,
I think
anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all and find out what's going on and
Thank you for replying to our email. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No, you know, if you have a certain name, definitely we'll answer your email right away. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. It was good talking to you all. Have a great weekend, rest of
Yes.
September, and everything else.
Yes. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And as Ngozi leaves, we just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. We're so happy that you were able to listen to this conversation, and hopefully you were able to take away something from it. Feel free to reach out to us via Instagram at Bias in African Fashion and on Twitter at Bias African Fashion. We look forward to hearing from you, to engaging with you, and hearing your thoughts on this topic of inclusivity and eliminating bias in African fashion. Thank you one more time from Papa and I. Take care. All the best.
Good night.
Bye.